My name is Jenny Sori, and I'm the founder and executive director of Hub of Hope. My story and involvement with the issue of human trafficking actually started in 2011. I had the privilege of meeting the team at International Justice Mission and learned about the issue of modern-day slavery and human trafficking on a global scale. And after looking at what could that look like to actually move overseas and work in an international spectrum, those doors just never opened for me. And so I began questioning, what is this, and does it happen here? What does it look like domestically in the United States? And even closer to home, what does it look like in my own community of Northwest Arkansas? And so realizing after lots of conversations that there was not an entity that was actually raising awareness about human trafficking, the knowledge of human trafficking actually was non-existent, and then there was not an agency working directly with those survivors of trafficking that were right here in Northwest Arkansas. That is how Hub of Hope was formed. The work is so important, and so we strive every day to continue to alert victims that there is an agency here in Northwest Arkansas that wants to see freedom in their lives and to provide that support for them. And also, again, to continue to raise awareness, because we believe that awareness fuels rescue. There's a story that I like to tell. My family and I were traveling overseas, and we were in Europe. And in Europe, you can ride the train. And when you approach the platform in London, you hear this beautiful voice that comes on that says, "Mind the gap between the train and the platform." My voice does not sound as beautiful as their voice does, but that's what they say, mind the gap. What does it mean to mind the gap? It means to be careful. And so peering down into the gap, I realized that you would want to be careful of the gap. It is dark, looks dangerous. There are things that I could not recognize in there. I might get a disease if I fell into that gap, and it would exhaust me to try to get out of that gap. And as I'm staring into that gap, this still small voice comes into my head, and it says, "Jenny, what if instead of minding the gap, being careful of the gap, you were called to stand in the gap for the vulnerable and the oppressed that live all around you?" And that story has just settled in my heart all these years, and it continues to push me forward in this work as we continue to stand in the gap for the vulnerable and the oppressed right here in Northwest Arkansas.